Hi everyone, this is Medium and Channel Bonnie Bent. I am doing my approved hike because we are in the state of California, and so we are restricted right now to a stay-at-home order. But we are allowed to be out and exercise, and of course this is one of my happy places. And it also is Dale, my friend who passed away last year. Today is his birthday. And so I wanted to do this in honor of him as well. This is one of his favorite places. So we're in Old Town San Diego, and my thought was, well, why not go to a ghost town when there's not going to be anybody there? And so it's a very interesting feeling because it's Saturday. It's a little after 2 in the afternoon, I believe. And ordinarily, because this is a tourist attraction, it would be incredibly crowded. And at this point, it really is not. And so I'm going to try. And hi, Juanita. I can see you because I'm in the shade. I'm trying to flip my camera here so you can see. And I have a little bit of a stick on the camera, so it makes it a little easier. So anyway, this is the parking lot outside of the Cosmopolitan Hotel, and you can see there's only a very few cars here. The Cosmopolitan itself obviously is closed, and so the parking lot is completely empty, which ordinarily you'd be circling around forever trying to get a parking space. And we're coming up on the Cosmopolitan Hotel here. I really cannot see what I'm filming, so I'm trying to do my best here. If I'm in a shady spot, I can actually see. So let me see what I can do here. So that's the blacksmith shop there. That's the Cosmopolitan Hotel here. And so we're just going to take a little bit of a walk around. It's very, very quiet, that's for sure. On a normal day, even during the week, there would be a lot of hustle and bustle going on. They're closed. And there's a sign up about public safety, so everything is shut down. I did see someone come out of there a little while ago, so they do still have management on staff, I'm sure, making sure everything stays safe and under control here. Across from the hotel, many a picture has been taken of this covered wagon. And so we're heading really into for those that have not been here before, we're heading into the center of the plaza, which would have been the original plaza back when this was actually downtown San Diego. And they've done their best to make it historically accurate as far as the buildings go. And so it actually goes down the street that way and then comes around. And the center of the flagpole, is right here. There is you're watching me right now. He told the person that they had to be walking because they went by on a bike. So I guess they're fine as long as you're by yourself and not trying to spread virus to anyone. For my friend Chanel, Johnson House, this is where she works. And she's waiting for the all clear to be able to come back and open up the shop. A lot of of very nice jewelry and things like that. And I just love this place. Whenever I feel stressed out, this is where I want to be. And so while I can still do that, that's what I'm doing. And there doesn't seem to be an issue with being out walking around during the day. I am hearing that there's additional restrictions coming, and so I wanted to take the opportunity to do this little bit of filming and walk around while it's still okay for us to do that. Everything is this particular area has been closed for many years now. Many years ago, we used to eat out in this patio area, but not for several years. And all of these are old Spanish homes that were then modified into restaurants and offices and things of that nature. So it's very, very peaceful here. I've also tried to make the plants historically accurate too for what you might have seen, back in the 1870s time frame. And we're walking now towards Fiesta de Reyes, which this would be the height of the busiest part of the plaza, because obviously this is where all the really great Mexican food is. And that's the train you're hearing going by. Here's the notes telling you that they're closed. But you can see a little bit. They've got a gate here, so I can't get inside to show you too much detail on the inside. But there's a really lovely cart here with succulents, which we do tend to have very dry weather, so those tend to do very well here. So the trains and the buses and all those things, all essential services are all still running. So you might be able to hear the train off in the distance. And this is Bara Bara. My daughter was out here visiting just a couple of weeks ago. This is where we had dinner. It seems like things have changed an awful lot during that time. But there's the entrance right through there. And obviously they have notes on their door as well. I should point out this is a state park, and the state parks are closed, which is why there's a park ranger standing guard. And he's keeping an eye on me to make sure I'm not causing any problems. And this is the Robinson Rose House, which is also the information center. And they also keep historic records here, where the state historian has an office and some archives here. So I've actually done some research going into this building before. And back here, kind of off in the distance, is the McCoy house. And he was the sheriff during all the stories that you hear about Thomas Whaley and the courthouse and all of that. He was here and involved in all of that historical activity. Now historical, for them it was very current. And we still tend to have arguments with our politicians about things we think are unjust. And that was kind of Thomas Whaley's gripe about the courthouse, was that he had a lease and it just picked up and moved while he was gone on a business trip in 1871, and he got stiffed on the lease. So I'm going to turn around here and walk you around to the other side. Like I say, ordinarily on a Saturday afternoon, this would be completely full of people. So it's kind of nice in a sense to not have to worry about the crowds, but it also gives a very strange, eerie kind of feeling. So I'll give you a shot from over here of where we've just walked around. So we're literally walking in a circle. And you can look up if you want to online and find historic pictures of that flagpole and that cannon. They have literally been there for almost ever. But everything's completely closed down. And I think you can see the park ranger over there keeping an eye on me. So hopefully the camera's a little bit more steady, because I actually put it on a tripod so that I don't have to hold the phone in my hand. So it makes it a little easier to walk and talk. And that's the Cosmopolitan over here, I think, if I can see. There's the flagpole. Yeah. Maybe if I walk over here in the shade a little bit, I'll be able to see a little better. So as far as situations with the virus and everything, we are able to be out and walking around and getting fresh air, which I would definitely recommend, because it's a very stressful situation we find ourselves in our country and other countries as well. And best possible thing is to get out and get fresh air and some sunshine and get some vitamin D. And for right now, there's no restriction on doing that. But we don't really know exactly where this is all leading to. So kind of like I'm doing right now, you just put one foot in front of the other and you enjoy the moment. Because for me, this is kind of a cool thing to be able to walk around and give you a shot of a really beautiful tree, and it's perfectly safe. There's no problem with anyone or anything. It's very peaceful. You can hear the bells off in the distance. So we're going to keep walking a little bit. Just want to say thank you for letting me film. I know you're closed, but I just wanted to get some exercise in. Okay, thanks so much. Appreciate it. You too. So we're still allowed to walk around. You heard it from the park ranger. Because I know my daughter's at home going, "Oh God, Mom, you're not supposed to be out." But she also knows me well enough to know that I will take advantage of any opportunity I can to do something that you don't ordinarily get a chance to do. So you don't see this side of the park much when you look online. People tend to focus on the Plaza, which is where we started, and that's back there in that area. But if we keep walking straight down the street this way, we will ultimately get to Whaley House and now Campo Santo Cemetery, which I know a lot of my friends that are involved in paranormal research and that kind of thing, those are favorite places on the list to see. Whaley House is closed. All the museums are closed. And it's a little bit interesting as far as ownership of the land, because some of it is state, like the park there belongs to the state, and then now we're walking towards land that belongs to the county of San Diego, and then some of it is the city of San Diego. So I happen to know with the Cosmopolitan Hotel, if they have any kind of a plumbing leak, that's the first thing is, whose jurisdiction is it in, because they're in the state park, but also some of the land is county. And so you get into the typical finger pointing kind of situations of who is responsible for the repair. So as you can see, there's a few people out, but not very many, not like it would be. And for those that are familiar with the Ghost and Gravestones tour and those kind of things, those always meet up right here, and the Old Town Trolley tours as well. And this is where you would buy your ticket. I know you guys are commenting. I'm sorry, with the sunshine on the screen, I can't see them, but I will try and get back to them later when I get back. Or if I get into a shady spot, I might be able to see it. There's some people out on the street getting their pictures taken with their masks on.
Carlos. Yeah.
All right, Carlos. Stay safe out there.
There's Carlos out taking pictures of you too, Carlos. I'm on YouTube Live. Are you out taking pictures of people out on the street? Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the lack of crowd here?
When the government create fear and panic into people responding. The government likes that because they have control now of people.
Yeah, but there's you and me, and we're out here.
Yeah.
But we're entrepreneurs, so that's what we do, huh?
Uh-huh.
Nice to meet you, Carlos.
Yeah.
You be safe. Oh, Carlos is going to take our picture, guys.
Right.
Thank you, Carlos. So that's kind of fun. And there's a lot of gift shops and things here. And the church is over here. I shouldn't miss giving you guys a shot of the church right here. You may have heard the chiming a few minutes ago. And that's where that comes from. So we actually could. I mean, Carlos is walking down the middle of the street, but we actually could do that. There's an old classic car. I don't know if you guys can see that. Chevy, I think, of the 1950 persuasion, 50-ish.
She has two riding lessons.
So it's really very interesting to just walk down the street with like hardly anybody here. This is a setup for a vendor, obviously, who's cleared out all their merchandise. Because we do have a lot of street vendors that sell little tchotchke kind of things for the tourists to take home. This restaurant is actually very new. I just noticed it last time I was here in Old Town. Because it used to be a fast food place that sat on this corner. And for my paranormal friends, that's Whaley House. So we can cross the street because there's literally nobody on the street. No one at all. So it may actually be too close. It may be better if I cross over on this side of the street, give you a better shot of the house. I've got a little bit of shade right here. So I'm going to stay here for just a second. And if you have any comments, I'll be able to see them up on the screen and respond to them because I can actually see my screen. On the other side of this wall is where the courthouse is, which if you've seen pictures or if you've been, that's what's on that side. And then the front porch is on the right and the backyard is on the left. And there are quite a few outbuildings. That's what we call them because they're not part of the original land when Thomas Whaley lived here. The Derby Pendleton house and the outbuildings on the other side of the house were actually put here in the 1960s to keep them preserved historically, but they were not here during Thomas Whaley's day. So we're going to take a little walk across the street here and take the back gate into the garden area. Which ordinarily there would be gas and flame running out of that. But for whatever reason, they've got that shut down as well. Well, maybe it's just broken because there's another one here that is working. So this is the garden area, the backyard of the house. And here's one of those lanterns that's working. Let's see if I can get you a good shot of it. There you go. They're very, very pretty at night. And they just stay on all the time. So this little outbuilding here is not exactly accurate to where the privy was, if you remember the story of Violet, but it is a present-day bathroom. But it's not exactly in the same spot. And this is the back of the house. So on the right there is where the kitchen, the outside kitchen, is located. And then you've got the upstairs windows. And you may see pictures from the past where there were stairs leading from that center window down to the ground. They took them out a few years ago. And there's a light on in the window up there. So these are some of the outbuildings that were put on the property later. There's a couple people having their lunch. And these have been restaurants off and on. They don't seem to do as well as the ones in the plaza. And this is the Verna House, which is also where you would get your tickets. If you were going to Whaley House, you would enter in the Verna House and buy your tickets over there. And I'm actually walking in an area where I've had a lot of activity. As you can see, it's relatively close to where those outbuildings are. But I did have an experience here. So that's Verna House. And like I say, these were all put on the property back in the 1960s. Thomas Whaley seems to take great issue with these properties being here. He's not real happy about it. And then I've also experienced some activity by this front tree. And contrary to public thought or some of the things that people have said, there is no hanging tree. There's no gallows on this property, at least not that I've ever been able to find historically. So the story about Yankee Jim Robinson well, I did a whole documentary on that you can find on Amazon. But at any rate, he's haunting this house for a completely different reason. He was not hung here. So a lot of details as to why that is, and I've done the research on it. It all seems to make sense. This is the other side of the house. I should have taken you past here, sorry. There's the window there. That's the upstairs window. So now we're getting to the front porch area, which I think is probably better if I walk at a little bit of a distance. So I'll show you across the street for now. That's Old Town Mexican Cafe. Very reasonably priced Mexican food there. Mexican food?
I sure am.
Oh, good for you. My daughter would be so happy if you could send that to Missouri.
Oh, I wish I could. She'll have to come to visit then.
Okay, thanks. Have a good one. So those are the front windows. And general store area, which is sort of accurate, sort of not. I was there for a couple of months, didn't succeed. And then this would be the courthouse area. And the original dedication, which I'm not sure if I can, maybe I can close up in on that. Let's see. You can see that. It's the original dedication. And this is the sign of its being a historic landmark. Which it is. It's really amazing that this house was preserved, because if you go back and look at the pictures online before it was restored, it really was literally falling apart. And being in that time frame, it seemed like they just always wanted to build gas stations because everybody was moving around and doing a bunch of things. And so they wanted to put a gas station in here. And some of the citizens in the area banded together and said, no, we want to preserve the house. And they got the money together and did that and made it into a museum. And it's been that way since 1960. So this is the front of the Verna house. And I saw somebody asked about, is there a Starbucks? And there isn't, that I'm aware of. Another pretty famous eatery place around here for good Mexican food is Cafe Coyote. And that's right here, right next to Old Town Mexican Cafe. So as you can see, there's a few people out and around. But not a lot. And I hope you're enjoying the distraction, because I know I sure am. And I'm going to enjoy looking at this later and seeing your comments. I can see that you put some up on the screen, but I can't read them because it's just too bright. But we're going to walk up to El Campo Santo, which is right up the street, right up here. And this is Miguel's, which is a chain, but also very good. So as you can see, Old Town is full of Mexican food, and the only place that I can think of that does not have Mexican food is the Cosmopolitan Hotel. Everyone else is pretty much stuck with the Mexico theme. So let me go across the street. So this is obviously a little bit more modern area. So we're leaving at this point what would be considered the tourist part of Old Town, which I'll give you a shot down the street. So that's the Plaza straight down there. And then Whaley House would be on our right-hand side. And this is all more modern kind of things here. Somehow I think the puppies are getting more walks than usual because they all look real happy. So we're just heading down the street here to El Campo Santo Cemetery, which used to be much larger than it is, than it's represented today. Best we can tell, I wasn't able to find a map, but best we can tell, it went all the way down to Old Town Avenue, which if you can see the stoplight down there, it would be down that far. And we don't know how far it went in the other direction. But anyway, here we are. And the cemetery is all maintained by volunteers. Trying to keep it in relatively good shape. And it looks like the gate's open. It's a funny thing with me. Whenever I'm welcome from the spirit world, the gate will always be open. Standing open. It's a very odd thing. You might have noticed it already that walked through gates that were open. So I've never really had any weird feelings here, other than when I was in contact with Yankee Jim Robinson. He was trying to explain to us exactly what happened with him. And obviously the marker that's provided here is for the tourists and should not be taken as any kind of historical accuracy. As a matter of fact, the markers have all been moved around by very well-meaning people, because I was able to get the death record for Yankee Jim Robinson, so I know what plot number he was in, but unfortunately it's not represented here today. And for those that hear the story about the theater at Whaley House, that's the Tanner of Tanner Troop. And there's a little thing here. And like I say, you have to take with a grain of salt that these are in any way, shape, or form accurate, because the cemetery, like I say, is much smaller than it was. And this is a Catholic cemetery, so in the case of Yankee Jim Robinson, they actually had to baptize him and make him a Catholic before they hung him, which it's very interesting how religious rituals kind of defy logic, but they felt that he needed to be a Catholic. And you could only be buried here if you were considered to be Catholic, even if it was literally minutes before your death. So everyone was buried by their religious affiliation. And so I was able to locate another cemetery, but it's kind of a secret, but it's here in Old Town, and it was the Presbyterian Cemetery, and it's an empty lot that's never been used, strangely enough, and the bodies are still very much there, because you can get that sense. And people, whoops, oh, here's one of these little marker things too, if I can get a shot of it. See where it says grave site right there? Because they actually use ground penetrating radar to determine if there were any graves. There's another one. And they do go out into the street also, which, here's one. I don't want to really walk into the street, but there's one right there. It says grave site upside down. And it's literally the middle of the street here. But they just ran out of money to locate the graves. So if you remember the movie Poltergeist, where they built things but didn't remove the graves, it's a similar kind of situation going on there. So I'm going to try and cross the street here. Of course, there's nobody coming either way. Because I'm actually in a shady spot. And so we're across the street now from Campo, Santo. Hello. Oh, I can see your comments. I'm in a shady spot. I walked past the ranger. He was sitting in his truck, and I just thanked him very much for letting me film. And he said, "No problem. You can walk through the park." So we're not on complete and total lockdown, but I am hearing that there might be some curfews coming, as in they don't want people out at night. But like I say, the healthiest thing, sorry about the noise, The healthiest thing you can do for yourself right now is to get grounded and be outside. And if you have a place that is that brings joy to you, I would suggest, even if you're not in an area that's locked down like California is, get out into that area and just, film it or take pictures or whatever you want to do, because we may actually be preserving a memory. We don't know what's going to be happening next. And so we're actually living through a historic moment. Beautiful palm tree. And that's the way I'm looking at this, is I'm actually documenting this digitally because I don't know come Monday morning if I will be able to come down here. And so I want to make sure that we preserve, what was before in case the after is different. And I do think it is a paradigm shift. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that are not going to be the same as they were. The spirits at rest, I don't really know the answer, other than to say I don't sense any particular activity there. And so I don't think that there's actually a law too that says that they can pave over graveyards after the last person buried there was more than 100 years ago. Thought being that there aren't any family members that are coming to visit. And I think in the sense of any graveyard, that they're not hanging out at the graveyard. I mean, would that be your choice? Oh, let's go hang out at the graveyard. But they may do that if they have a religious belief, or a family member has a religious belief of going to visit them there, which a lot of people do. And so they will meet their loved one there because that's where the loved ones decided to go, and set the intention of communicating with them. So I think that's a little bit more accurate than they're all just hanging out there waiting for us to drop by. So I don't know if there's anything else that we're walking our way back to the Plaza right now. So I'm kind of showing you the opposite side of the street. So if I missed your comment or question, you can ask it again, because I can actually see right now. I'm in the shade. So I won't put him on camera, but my friend here has a great attitude. He's out here smoking his cigar. So I got to hell with it. So life is what you make it, my friends. Yeah, it's kind of like science fiction. What do I do at night? At night, we're going to stay home because it's, just the prudent thing to do. Until such times as we get further instructions. So we still have some food going on, because we're making the tortillas.
Yeah.
And they're the best. They smell wonderful. So how's business for you? It's okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
24?
Yeah,
Okay, no worries. No. Yeah, I'm gonna bring it soon. You pay. No worries. Thank you.
three versions of them. Sometimes people like to
It's a pretty fountain for you guys.
And if some of them look a little dark,
So for those that are into meditation, get your water and your fountains. because every little bit helps. Because you need to stay calm. And I saw the toilet paper question. Seems like everybody's out of toilet paper, and isn't that an odd thing? We do still have a lot of shortages on our shelves, but I think that's a nationwide issue right now. So I don't think that's unique to the shutdown. I think it has to do with supply chain. And I've been seeing reports that there's not as much product coming in through the ports from other countries. And so depending upon where the item comes from, you may not be getting it right now. So that's the Verna house as we're walking back down the street. And of course the infamous Whaley house. Does anyone have any questions about Whaley house? Have you guys been to Whaley house before? I'm sure some of you guys have. Because I'm actually in a shady spot so I can see my screen a little better. Let me center that up for you. So I'll walk you all the way back down to the Cosmopolitan, and then our little documentation journey is complete at that point. It's been 15 years since you've been to Whaley House? Yeah. It changed a lot in the year 2000 when it switched caretakers. It was represented quite differently before that. So there's every once in a while there's a car or a truck, but not much. As you can see, it's nobody that way and nobody that way. And one car that way. So I do know quite a bit of the history of Whaley House, but I don't know that everyone is all that interested. But there's a lot of information on my two websites. SDParanormal.com has a lot of the deep research work that I've done. And then I also have bonnievent.com, which does not have as much content on it because it's all friendly for your phones. SD Paranormal is an old site, but it's got a lot of information. So we're just going to keep walking. Have a little bit of shady spots so I can sometimes see the screen. Are you related to Whaley? Interesting you should say that. Directly blood related? No. But do I have reason to believe that there's a past life connection with Old Town and a connection with Thomas Whaley? Yes. I've done some research into that as well. So I feel connected, but I'm not connected as in blood connected, if that makes any sense. Same thing with the Hotel del Coronado. It's actually a time period in San Diego that I seem to have been here in a past life as well. And so it feels very familiar to me. And you may have gotten into a situation yourselves where you go somewhere that you've never been before and it just feels really, really familiar. And that's how this is. It just feels very safe and comfortable, and just a knowing of what's here and the energies here. The probably the most amount of latent energy activity would be in the plaza itself, because it was the center of town. There's a lot of violence that happened at that time, as you can imagine, because it's, rough and tumble San Diego with cowboys, saloons, brothels, that kind of thing. So justice was very swift, and not always just. But that's where I pick up the most amount of activity. And obviously I did some work several years ago at the Cosmopolitan Hotel. Kind of put it on the map, actually, in a sad way, because once I did my work there, it wound up on television with my research, except my research was not accurate, and it was, experiences that I had personally that were misrepresented. So we actually had to straighten out that episode, because there were blood descendants of Juan Bandini, who didn't take too kindly to someone saying nationally that Juan Bandini killed his wife and buried her under the bricks of the restaurant. Totally untrue. So I worked on the accurate historical research to keep the production company from being sued for defamation and false representation. It's also bad for business if you're a hotel and restaurant. I mean, can you imagine sitting eating your dinner knowing that somebody's wife's buried under your feet? Not very appetizing. And not true. She actually died in childbirth in the older portion of Bandini House, which I guess when we get by there, I'll show you the, because it originally was Bandini House, and then it was sold to the Seeleys, and they put the hotel on it. So it was actually a one-story house. There's also a story about Isadora Bandini swooning and falling off the roof into the arms of the man that she married, which, of course, looking at the hotel, you'd say, well, you're not going to survive that, and neither is the guy or the horse. But the fact is that it was one story, and there was just a railing up on the roof, and they used to stand up there. And so she just fell over the railing onto a horse, which is however many feet high, with the guy, and fell right into it. So, see, I think the puppies are having a good time.
I think so.
Yeah, I haven't seen any sad puppies, that's for sure. Seem to all be getting extra walks. So we're now back at the center of the plaza, which looks pretty much the way that it did originally. This would have been dirt and dirt road going around each way. There's a lot of latent activity here, but it doesn't seem to affect the outbuildings. And Casa de Estudio is under renovation anyway, so it was already closed. But it's it's huge even by today's standards. People were much smaller back in that time frame. So we're now back at the Cosmopolitan, and you'll notice they painted a new sign on there for the stage office, because the stables are literally right there, and that's why this became a hotel, because it was a stage stop. So they wanted to have a place for people to stay while they waited for their stage, which, could be an overnight thing. To go from here to Los Angeles was an all-day kind of ordeal. The older part of the house, which is where Mrs. Bandini would have passed away. She actually died giving birth. Is over in this section over here. And so if you ever go in, ask them about the wine room and they'll show it to you. It's at the extreme end on the first floor. And the room that I've had the most activity in is room 405, which is up here on the corner. The reason why it's called room 405 is it's actually two rooms with pocket doors in between. So it makes for a really nice suite. And many years ago, it was the office of Diane Powers, who used to run all of this Old Town area. And so the other rooms were used for storage up until 2011. They reopened the Cosmopolitan Hotel after the renovation. And then the rooms were actually available for rent. So that's actually a relatively recent situation. The 4-5 is right on the corner and has this great view, obviously, of the Plaza. And there's the ranger, making sure everybody's following the rules. And there's been no problem at all. As a matter of fact, there's no one here, as you can tell. Look down the street. So it's just us, guys. There's a few people over here. So I'll take you this way, back over to the blacksmith shop. And then up the street from here is a whole bunch of Victorian homes. And hopefully they'll get them open back up again. They were all relocated here to be preserved. It's referred to as Heritage Park. Blacksmith shop. I don't know if we can peek through here or not, but we'll give it a shot. Because that's what I like to do. It's like, what's behind there? And so I'll give you a shot and see. So it's just equipment. And of course we are in Southern California, so you're never ever going to stop the golfers from being on the golf course. And that's right across the street here. So they're getting their rounds in while they still can. And good for them. There's another hole we can peer into. And you can see so that's kind of fun. So here we are at the entrance in. Also exit out. And we're just on an hour. They're saying the puppies are having a great time. Everybody's out walking their dogs. And up the street here is Heritage Park. It's a little bit too far for me to walk, and we've done an hour already. So, does anyone have any questions before I shut down the stream? Because I'm actually in a shady spot where I can see your screen. Give you something more interesting to look at. Any last minute questions, comments? And I'll try and get in and answer any comments that I missed, because I know people were posting things. I just wasn't able to read them. How far do your descendants go back to San Diego? I don't know. The past life that I did research on, I was here for sure the opening of the Villa Montezuma and the Hotel Del Coronado. That's 87, 88. Thomas Whaley was here during that time also. And best I can tell, I died in the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco. So it would have been the mid 1800s through to the early 1900s. And it's interesting, in San Francisco, they were trying to compile a list because there's so many people that passed away in the earthquake and they don't know who they are. And so I submitted the name I was told was my name at that time, and they took it in, and it's on the list. So they must have found some sort of verification for it, which is interesting. Yeah, I was actually given the past life experience. Nothing is ever done just for fun and games. My guidance was telling me that I needed to take skill sets from that life and bring them forward. And so I needed to do deep research, and of course I was very much helped along the way with, go look at this historic newspaper, and boom, here it is, an ad that I had placed in the 1800s. And so I was very much guided in that journey. And the skill sets seemed to have to do with not the psychic skill sets, because I was psychic back then too, but the way that I made a living was to take money on the advice that I gave to business people. So instead of just pay for a reading kind of situation like people do now, I would take a percentage of the profit from the gain from the business people. So I gave business people advice. And they would hand me back, not necessarily money, but they would hand me back like pieces of jewelry and things of value. So it was about bartering, not so much, the cold hard dollar. Because prior to that, I've been in corporate America earning, the very nice paycheck. And so it was a transitional time for me. And probably good I'm bringing this up now, because a lot of people are in that situation right now where their regular paycheck is either temporarily or permanently is going to come to an end. And what do I do now? And my advice to you at this point would be to get with your guidance, and also where are your passions, what really excites you, and start working on, as they call it, a side hustle. You got plenty of time at home right now, a lot of you, and just make sure that you're taking care of yourself and not dependent upon somebody else to hand you that paycheck. And that can also be bartering services as well. It's not necessarily just cash. People are going to get more and more amenable to trading services. Be surprised, actually. Some people really prefer that because there's an energy exchange that goes along with that that's very loving and very giving, as opposed to, just putting your credit card down. Anyway, just something to ponder. Good. Working on a book is a very good idea, and I want to say this too because I've kind of done all of this, all the internet stuff, and the walls that were there before aren't there anymore. So if you want to publish your own book, you can do that. And it won't cost, it's a digital book, so it doesn't cost you for printing or anything else. The hard part is getting your book known and getting people interested in it. So getting the attention is the hard part, not the actual putting the book together. But if you have a book inside of you, now's a great time to be working on that, because most of us need the distraction. There's very little that you can do in the physical world about what's happening in our country and all the countries that are affected. But there's a lot you can do energetically, internally, a whole lot, as far as controlling your own space, own attitude, and how you're going to take in what's going on in the outside world. Because some of it you really shouldn't. And it can be very hard. I know it's hard for me because I'm very analytical. I want to know the whys and wherefores of everything. But it can be crazy making also. So that's why I come out and do these things every once in a while and just clear out the cobwebs. If you have a marketing background, then help the people that don't have marketing backgrounds get the things out. Do some sort of energy exchange on that. Because most people that are writing a book don't have the money to pay for the publicity and the marketing. And even if you get with a regular publisher, I was offered a book deal. They don't do very much. You have to have your own following of people on social media, and you have to have a big following before they will even look at what you want to do. So much does not happen because of the mechanisms that are currently in place. And it's easier if you can go direct to get things done. There's actually an airplane up in the sky. I don't know if you can see. Not very many airplanes flying right now. I don't recommend going anywhere unless you want to be stuck wherever you're going. If you're heading home, by all means. So I need to find another shady spot because otherwise I cannot see what you guys are typing. So I'm going to go over this way. Okay. So I will do a session soon with the connection. I really think that we need to do that. They've been talking for quite some time about this particular time frame and the fall of governments. And for those of you who've been following my work, they've been telling you to, hurry up and complete your projects and that kind of thing, and that there was going to be a lot of disruption. And Do I recommend moving to California? No, I don't. Not unless you've got a compelling reason to be here. The weather is beautiful, but everything is taxed a lot, so it's incredibly expensive. So if you're looking at jobs and things like that, take that into consideration, what the cost of living is, because just looking at the salary, you might think it's a great deal, but it's very, very expensive. Yeah, people are moving out of California, and I mean, I'm sure there's other reasons, but the predominant reason is the cost of living and the lack of jobs, because we're so heavily regulated on business that it's very difficult to start a business or to have a startup. And so we don't have as good of a job market as other places in the country do either. So, you know, when I used to work in software development, I used to work in Sorrento Valley, which is, you know, the hub of all of the tech industry. And it crashed and burned in 2000, and it crashed again and burned in 2003. And all the people that I worked with all sold their houses and went back to wherever they came from. And many of them are no longer in the tech industry. They took, you know, the money from the house, which was pretty lucrative, and they bought real estate where, you know, they moved to, which is substantially cheaper. And they're just doing their own thing and living off of the money that they made. So it is very expensive. But we're very heavily taxed on everything. So used to be, you know, kind of the sweet deal was for companies to set up in San Diego to make it attractive to get the best and brightest employees. But that's a day gone by. How do people maintain to survive? I think a lot of people have moved back in with family, and they agree together to, you know, everybody's out working and to get by. We also have more homeless than we've ever had before, and so not everybody's making it. Sad to say. So if you have a question or a comment, please type it again, because right after you type it, it comes on my screen and then goes away, and I don't know how to get it back. Maybe there's a way. I don't know. No, that's not it. Anyway, hopefully you all feel better after this little trip. I know I do. It's a lovely day. But it is sad to see all these properties sitting empty. I hope that doesn't last too long. And I don't like to make predictions. Scroll up and down on my screen. Oh, okay. Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah, we've been talking about the fall of governments for many years. They've been trying to get everybody prepared because it's really a giant shift So hopefully people listened. I don't know how many people did or how many people could, but you've got a lot of junk to barter. Well, there you go. I mean, there's an app for that, as they say. Um, yes, I was a spiritual financial planner, which maybe I should do that again. Uh, Do I hold memorabilia of Old Town? Only in my photographs and my memories. I don't have any particular objects. Yes, I had a different lifetime with Thomas Whaley and also Jesse Shepard, and spent some time at the Hotel del Coronado also. I used to do readings there. I used to do readings at the Villa also, but I did tea leaf readings for the ladies during the day, and I did business readings for the men at night at the Hotel Del. So I was really working it, which I guess is why they told me I needed to start doing that sort of thing again. Uh, yeah, it does feel like we're living in a sci-fi movie. I said that exact same thing because it's not supposed to be empty like this. I mean, we've been standing here for quite some time and not a soul has walked by. But I'm sure that's why they don't want people out at night either, because it could get a little dangerous. Yes, I'm still going to be doing the channeling. I had to shut down the channeling for a while, really due to a health crisis with my mom. And so she's in a board and care, and I'm not a caregiver for her, but I was for many years. And so there was a giant personal shift there. And then I also got very sick when this whole virus thing happened. I didn't get the virus, but I got very sick to my stomach for several days. And so I'm just now getting kind of back up to doing what I need to do. Well, it's telling me that my battery is running out, so I'm going to have to say goodbye. So thank you, everybody, and please try and relax and go to your happy place, even if you have to use a webcam. I've been doing that. I've been putting up the webcam of the beach at the Hotel Del. It's very empty there too. I'll warn you. Anyway, have a wonderful day, everybody, and let's hope this gets over sooner rather than later. Thanks so much.